Hi, I'm Heidi Herriott. Welcome to Doggone Good Information, and welcome my co-host, Tommy Fahey. Hi, Tommy.
Hi, Heidi. How are you today?
I'm good. I see you wearing a sweater. I know you had a cold spell there in Missouri.
Winter weather has arrived here in Southwest Missouri.
Not in Florida. We're sitting here in the air conditioning still. So, and I'm doubtful that even by the time this podcast airs that we will have much cooler weather, but we can hope.
I'm sure not. But
I'm the minority, though. People come to Florida for this weather, so I realize, I'd rather have the sweater on. But anyhow, here I am in the Sunshine State and generally enjoying it. Tommy, I want to start out with a bit of a retraction, I guess, maybe would be the way to say it. On our last episode, we in the banter at the beginning, we talked about someone you knew that had gone out to a farm and seen the calf laying under the fence and tried to knock on the door. So I've heard from some folks about this. And I have thought about it. I thought about it when we were talking about it, that if the dogs are on your own property and they're protecting your property, that's exactly what you want them to do. And that's why people have them. So,
sure.
And maybe my stance on it, that your dog should still behave in that. But I also remember my mother had a big Great Dane, and it was the sweetest dog in the world, big Harlequin, taller than our miniature horses. And the UPS or the FedEx guy in those days would come in and honk his horn and not get out of his car, his truck. But so, people do have dogs just for that reason. They want the protection and they want those dogs. You hope that they won't actually bite or get into you. But I just wanted to say that I understand that aspect of it and have lived out in the country and where dogs, you have dogs so that they will be watchdogs and guard dogs. So I would say that maybe if it had been me, and I've thought about this a bit, I would have honked my horn and not gotten out of the car, knowing myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't have gotten out in somebody's property, or I would have pushed a little stinker back under the fence and been on my way. The little calf. All right, get back under there.
A little nudge.
Yeah.
Hope for the best.
Yeah. Probably get in trouble for that too. But anyhow, I just wanted to say that I would probably have sat in my car and honked my horn. But I do feel bad because it's terrifying to get bit, especially when there are a few dogs around. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. There's two sides to every coin with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And you and I both are around a lot of folks who live in both scenarios, in town and then out on their own property, and they're choosing to live remotely and want their watchdogs. So we get that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So, boy, there is a firestorm of a story here right in my backyard. It's funny. I was following it and didn't even really realize how close it is in proximity to me. So the SPCA Tampa Bay, which is actually based in, there's I think few locations, but Largo, Florida, which is the next town over from me, decided to, I think after much discussion, enter into a partnership with a pet store and also a breeder out of Missouri, ironically, who's creating some initiatives so that they could provide more of a comfort level about the animals that they provide to the pet stores, right? Because the pet store ban, adopt, don't shop, and banning pet stores is all about, we don't know where these animals come from, which is really not true. The shelter animals are the ones we really don't know where they come from. However, so the SPCA Tampa Bay and a gal named Martha Bowden, who I believe is their CEO, announced a For All Dogs pilot program. And it's an unusual partnership between Sunshine Puppies, which has retail shops, and a Missouri-based breeder, Pinnacle Pet. And they're providing the veterinary care for the puppies in the stores. The SPCA is going into the stores and checking the health of the puppies. So they're being very proactive. Well, this is, so add to this, I was actually visiting you. I was traveling and got to spend a day with you over in Missouri. I come back from my trip, and my husband, who always says he's not encouraging me to do podcasts, left me a article, ironically, about this story, which I'd already read a little bit about, but wasn't, just kind of keeping it on my radar. So our local paper called The Beacon has a guest columnist, who is one of our commissioner, Pinellas County commissioners, Pinellas County, Florida, saying that the article is why this commissioner believes pet stores can humanely sell puppies. So St. Petersburg has a pet store ban, but Pinellas County did not go down that road. They've looked at it, and I keep expecting it to happen, but it has not happened yet. They've grandfathered in several. We've got 5 stores, I think, in the county. And then Manatee County, which is just over the bridge, the Skyway Bridge on the other side of the Gulf, the bay, rescinded theirs, turned theirs over, their ban over. I've lost track of wanting to get the one gal on the podcast to talk about that. After reviewing it and looking at it, they turned it over, which is really unusual. Okay, so there's not a ban here in the county, and the commissioner looked at this and makes a lot of points about even a program called Canine Care Certification, which is a set of science-based standards that breeders have to follow voluntarily. And then the pet stores can utilize those breeders feeling good about the animals they're getting, right? So we're really, really drilling down on this because there's such a belief that breeders are the sole problem in all of this, and pet stores. When, again, in fact, we have no idea where our shelter dogs are coming from, and we don't have any kind of standards like this on that front. So now the SPCA, Martha, partners with these folks. This was early October, like October 11th, I think this is dated. October 27th, which is just a few days ago, this is 2023, they have walked back their statement. They're reconsidering the partnership. Well, because there's also a petition out there that needs looking for 7,000 signatures, has 6,500, and it's going to cost her job and rescind the partnership. So this lady, she looks like a mature lady. And again, I look forward to talking to her, but I'm guessing she's got a good amount of time in this field, in this world. And now her job is at stake. And it's absolute outright bullying. I mean, it's so unacceptable. The humane societies and the other groups around here are just out for blood. And there's a lot of working parts to this. Okay, sit down and discuss the working parts, the pieces, the different aspects of this partnership, and maybe pick apart something you don't like. But just because she's gone down this road, they're just out for blood. So I know you've looked into it a little bit. It's so disheartening.
It's a really odd thing to wrap your head around, I feel like. On the one hand, you've got all these people who are interested in helping animals and making sure that animals, get to their best care. And that appears on the surface to be what she's doing.
Right.
But then these same people are saying, but we don't like the way she's doing it. We don't like, how she's doing it. So rather than, this is a common thing I say all the time, rather than presenting problems, present a solution.
Yeah. Imagine
So there's
that.
all these people out there yelling and screaming and saying, oh, this is bad. This is terrible. And we see it across the board in all parts of our society, not just about this particular situation. But if you don't have a constructive solution to this dilemma, why are you voicing your opinion? She's not trying to harm any dog. She's not trying to put anyone in harm's way. She's actually trying to create a system that would help more animals.
Yeah.
So I just really don't understand these people that are against her or making it out that she is this bad person or doing bad to animals. when it's completely the opposite.
One of the aspects, tenets of this program is that they have this voluntary certification for the breeders, but also then that the breeding stock, the males and females, get retired anywhere between 4 and 7 years, probably depending on the breed. Obviously, the bigger breeds are going to be, shorter lifespan, and then the SPCA will assist in getting those dogs adopted out. I did a story about this with medical research animals, Homes for Animal Heroes, about the beagles getting adopted out. They're using them for shorter term in research so they could get them adopted out. So again, a dilemma. They're not going to stop using them because we need medical research, and it's one of the most viable options. But they've agreed to let the dogs be done with their duty, their research sooner, and get adopted out. Same thing here. So I'm going to call these people out. There's a quote here. This is a slap in the face of everyone who's done any kind of Florida rescue, says animal advocate Susan Sudra. And by offering to take in whether it's adult dogs or imperfect puppies or whatever, you're still affiliating yourself with these groups, and it reads as an endorsement. And that's Laura Lyons saying that these groups, meaning the breeders and the pet stores, they're just vilifying them. And as we already know, the starting point is there's no good breeder. Everybody who breeds dogs is a puppy mill, and there's no good pet store. But yet, here's an interesting scenario. The half of, I'm trying to think of my source here, but more than half of people looking for dogs are looking at pet stores and breeders because they want something specific. They want a specific breed, a specific temperament. They want the knowledge of raising it as a puppy and not knowing its backstory. They want the assistance of the breeders helping them, that type of thing. More than half of the people. Yet when you read the statistics out there about shelters and stuff and the adopt, don't shop, and shame on all the actors and celebrities who get out there and do that, because again, there's so much more to this story. They're making it look like, it's only about the rescues and the shelters. And in fact, it's not what people are looking for, more than half the people, but they're not the voice. They're not the one that's coming out there. So I just want to shame these people. It's making me so upset. And I'm hoping, I've reached out to Pinnacle Pet. I've reached out to Sunshine Puppies, reached out to Martha Bowden of the SPCA Tampa Bay. And I've reached out to my commissioner, Kathleen Peters, trying to get any of them on the podcast or to make a statement or that type of thing, because I want their voices to be heard. I'm not going to take this lying down. Not in my backyard. So I don't know if you have anything else to add, but it's really disappointing.
Yeah, the statement you read off there, a slap in the face to anybody who's been a part of rescue. Again, I go back to define rescue.
Yeah. Are
you getting these dogs out of a ditch, flooded ditch, or a burning building? No. Calm down about the rescue.
Right.
No, I'm not saying that they don't exist, that there are some bad situations that they're getting them out of. And yes, that does happen. But like you said, we have a demand as far as supply and demand and the economics of this go. We have a demand for purebred dogs.
Yes.
Rather than trying to change that demand, how about we set up an effective system that has checks and balances and has regulation and has oversight that we can meet the demand?
Well, interestingly, Tommy, the shelters and rescues have set up such a system. They get puppies from other countries.
There we go.
Yeah. And I'm not calling out every shelter and rescue, but there are over 1 million dogs, puppies, and adoptable dogs being brought into this country. And again, if you've listened to the podcast, the CDC actually banned imports from 113 countries, and that was just the tip of the iceberg. And they banned them because of falsified rabies and diseases that aren't in check, that we don't have a problem with in this country, strains of parvo and distemper. So there is so much more. None of them are talking about that. That's why I'm incensed about this, because you want to have a real conversation? Let's get a roundtable going. Let's get our WFLA News, who are reporting on this. Let's get a roundtable with all the parties in here. Let's throw some facts and statistics out there. What about the 1 million dogs coming over that are primarily for shelters and rescues, and the fact that our shelters and rescues are fairly full of bully breeds and crosses? Not the fault of the animals at all, but those are not what everybody's looking for to bring into their home, nor should they be. You have to be in the right scenario to take on those dogs.
Correct. Yeah.
So I'm on my soapbox, but I'm very, very frustrated by this. So Tommy, I'm just incensed about this. I'm just so upset. And here's another quote, that pet stores that sell purebred puppies, that's the problem because of how they're bred and bred, says Humane Society of Tampa Bay CEO Sherry Silk. Show me a shelter in our area that has purebred puppies or cute little puppies or adoptable dogs. It's just not the case. And people are looking for those kind of animals. So you just made a good point.
Yeah, why not put a little investment towards helping breeders do a better job, or help there become some kind of a system with oversight where, we're able to produce these dogs in a better way that's not, overbred animals or kept in cages that are unsanitary and poor conditions.
Well, first let's check into the fact that, is that true, or is that just something they throw out? So
yeah, is that every breeder?
Yeah,
I don't think it is.
No. And how about we put some oversight on shelters and rescues? How about they have to let us know if they got the dogs from Puerto Rico, or if they got the dogs from the valley border towns of Texas, or where are the dogs coming from? Where's
the oversight on that?
There is none, and they don't want there to be. It's a discussion I've been in with people who are very knowledgeable in this area, and the shelters do not want to keep statistics on where their dogs come from. It's not in their best interest. So doesn't that work both ways? I mean, we do know where the dogs at the pet stores are coming from, right? And yes, if there is are we looking to solve a problem that's not there because of an isolated incident that makes the big news, Or is there really a problem? And if so, it seems to me that Martha Bowden and the SPCA of Tampa Bay were looking to at least become part of a solution, or at least engage in some conversation with the supposed enemy.
Right.
Why isn't this on Megyn Kelly and bigger podcasts? I mean, these stories don't show up on the prime, Joe Rogan, those podcasts. And I feel like they don't want to get into it because it's like, well, then they'd have to come out and say that, yep, there's more to the story. It's not just all about rescue and adopt dogs, So anyhow. The dilemma. It is. It's an absolute dilemma. And that means that they're not necessarily an easy answer, but, just getting on your high horse and making a statement to the news about how horrible all these people are, we could just trot out just as much ammunition about shelters and rescues that do unsavory things. So it's just ridiculous. And you know what? They get away with it because it's emotional, because there's philosophy and ideology behind this. And it's all been crafted, and it's a narrative from the animal rights groups, Humane Society of the United States, who don't run the shelters, by the way. That's not the Humane Society that are running the shelters. People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, PETA, and many others, the ones you see on TV getting your money. And if you listen to my podcast, Animal Tales, you know that they have offshore accounts of multi-million dollars. So is that really the best place for your money to go? All right. Good question. Rant over.
Step off the soapbox.
I'm stepping. It's good. I'm going to fall off the soapbox. I'm way up on that soapbox. I need a step ladder. All right. We're going to pivot into another topic here, Tommy. And this was something you and I talk about often off the air, and we were even talking about the other day. And I believe there was a particular situation that sparked our conversation, but keeping dogs alive, the quality of life, how long do you go, what kind of expense, that maybe you can articulate it a little better.
Yeah. I don't know exactly how we got into this conversation the other day off the air, but it's sort of the dilemma of how much are we investing in keeping these animals alive when it comes to either geriatric care, comes to maybe cancer, maybe comes to, major injuries, things like that. What are we investing in that? And then where do we draw the line?
Right.
So I think I'm coming to it from having worked in a vet clinic, having been a trainer now for several years, watching people, how they spend money on their pets, what they spend money on. And having watched some situations where I'm going, why are we continuing to invest in this? This is long-term, not in the best interest of that individual. To what end are we doing this? So I'll put the caveat in here so we don't have to make a retraction later. If you're investing a lot of money into your pet's geriatric care, good for you. If you have the money and you want to do it and you make that decision, that is fine. I'm more interested in the conversation of the guilt that people feel when they cannot afford the care that's maybe expected or available. There's a lot of people, I think, that feel like they have to put in money to save the animal or to, fix the illness or fix the injury, when maybe that's not going to go anywhere in the end.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the bigger issue to me.
Well, I like what you said as well about kind of a disclaimer, because you and I both are absolutely believe you should take care of your older pets. For us, it's horses and dogs or our wheelhouse.
Yeah.
So we're not suggesting that once they're past their useful life, you're putting just putting them down or getting rid of them. There's a huge thing in the horse world that supposedly people get rid of their old horses and send them off to the slaughter or whatever, quietly send them off. So no, absolutely not. Or your geriatric dog. In my world, growing up as a third generation trainer and all the animals we had, it was always their quality of life. It was always about the animal. And you hear me say that. My dad always said the animals come first, right? What we have to do what's in the best interest of the animal. And many people get very emotional about their animals and they have a hard time making the decision. So I try to keep my emotion out of it until I've made the decision and I've checked it with people I trust. And then I allow myself the emotion because I need to hang in there and be practical for the animal, right? So the challenges, my dad always, and my grandfather, it was about, do they eat and drink? Can they move around? Can they go to the bathroom? And are they in any kind of pain that some basic meds can't take care of? Those were the thresholds. Right. And then as you get older, those, you quantify those even more. But those are the things we're looking at, right? So, and now we're in a world where people are doing GoFundMes for thousands of dollars for their pets. I don't know. I mean, I know some pets that came out of it and lived many more years with either a missing limb or something, and it cost thousands of dollars. I don't know that I would have made the same decision, but I understand. The hard part is, and you've said it on the podcast before, you see people who really have no means trying to go down that road, and then they're guilted on top of it. That's, I think, one of the problems we're having with it.
Yeah. The guilt and emotion that's put on it is really the concern for me. So one story that sticks out in my head from when I was working for the vet clinic happened to be a friend of mine that brought her cat in. And this was a not geriatric cat, but an older middle-aged house cat. Had developed a growth on its stomach. We tracked it for a while. It was growing. Took a sample of it, found out it was cancerous. So when it comes to that point, you've got some options. You can remove the mass, hope that you get all of it, and hopefully it goes away. You can go on full on to go on to a referral center and do chemotherapy, just like we do in human medicine, all that kind of stuff. So my friend that was the owner of this cat said, we'll do a simple surgery, remove the mass, get as much of it as you can, and we'll call it good. So that's what we did. 6 months later, the mass comes back.
Oh.
And she said, okay, well, we did the least invasive amount of care. I'm not going to take this cat on to a referral center. I'm not going to do any more than this. We're going to let him live out as long as he can until it becomes a problem. And then we'll euthanize him. And I remember there was a coworker that I had that was very emotional, very tied up into these things. And she just could not understand why the owner of the animal wasn't going to invest, more in curing this animal. And I'm thinking, why would you do that? I maybe wouldn't have even done the surgery.
Yeah.
I'm a very pragmatic, practical kind of person.
Yeah.
So it was the emotion really that bothered me the most, that she was thinking about it in that way. And then I spoke to the owner of the cat later and we discussed this, and she said, well, here's where I'm coming from. I spent, let's say $1,000 on removing that mass from the cat. He got another 6 months to a year of life from it. All that was great. I'm not going to invest another $1,000. What I'm going to do is I'm going to help that cat pass humanely. So we're going to euthanize it. And then she turned around and went to an animal shelter and picked up 2 new cats to come home to her house and live in her house.
Okay.
She wouldn't have had financially been able to do that had she spent thousands upon thousands of dollars on trying to cure this one animal. And I think there's a lot that is tied into that. Fear of death, fear of loss, fear of, there's a lot of emotion that goes into that. I think there's a lot of Disneyfication of what we expect out of, the end of life for our animals, the emotion that's kind of tied up into that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on there, and there's a lot to dissect, but it's the sort of social guilt that has developed
terrible
in making these pragmatic choices.
Again, it's a bullying. It's an outright bullying, whether it's your animal is at the end of their life or has a disease or an impairment or wound that you're not sure you're going to be able to overcome, maybe financially and the care of the animal. And or the, so on that, you and I have talked about this. I've said this on the podcast before. I'm amazed at people who, I don't have any problem at all, of course, with being sad that our animals get old and they're getting ready to pass on. I am a bit surprised. I guess it was just so different when I was growing up, and I grew up in the Midwest. But I feel like people get animals now and are surprised that they're going to die. I don't know how to articulate that, but like I see it online all the time, like 12-year-old, 14-year-old animal, and it's like, oh my God, they haven't prepared for this. When you get that puppy, I can promise you, as all of us are going to meet our maker one day, right? But if they get their full ride out of it, it's 10, 12, 14 years. You hear about the 17-year-old, that kind of thing. That's a great ride. But I guess I always try to be prepared for that as they're getting older and having their challenges. And then the other thing I do, we've done in our family, and I believe in this, I think about when I get the animal, what kind of money I could invest if I encounter something that's going to be very expensive. Horses, we have colic surgery and different things like that. $9,000 for colic surgery, and what's the chance your horse is going to survive? Is it less than 50? It's got to be pretty.
Depends on who you ask.
Yeah. I mean, in my world, I see like a 50% or less.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
I think there's this sort of Hollywood stories that are told about these miraculous, you know, things that we've cured this and we did this amazing surgery and this cutting edge. And I think of like shows like Grey's Anatomy or
Heartland.
They pull off this great moment of saving the animal. But the stories that aren't told are that animals pass.
Yeah.
Just like people pass. And that's normal and that's okay. And there's a huge reality that comes with that.
Yeah.
And those stories aren't told and it's not discussed. And I think, you know, we need to discuss that. We need to know what that reality is and what that looks like and be a little more okay with it.
Yeah. And not, you know, if someone's talking to you about this and they have animals, you should not be guilting them or making them feel bad if they don't want to spend $4,000 or $5,000 on that animal. I mean, there are people that times are rough right now. And, you know, we're talking about $4,000 on an animal that you paid, you know, $50 for from the shelter or whatever. And it's not solely about the money, but you do have to think about, I think these are all questions you have to ask yourself. And we all have to come to our own conclusion, I think, is where I'm going with this. And there is too much guilting and bullying on that front. I can't tell you how many people have reached out to me, people I know and people I don't even know who've seen me online and said, I have to, you know, I'm at this crossroads. And I say, make the decision that's right for you. Just make sure you do right by the animal. If they are going to be put to sleep, it's a humane euthanasia, all that kind of thing, you know. But do what's what's in the best interest. Get all your information together. So, I just feel really strongly about this. We've gotten way too. It's the same as the last story. We've gotten way too emotional. And there's too much bullying and guilting going on. You know, it also happens when we have to evacuate here. Online, like someone will say, I can't take my cat, this cat that roams around the neighborhood. And, you know, I can't take my cat with me or, you know, we're having trouble and they might have little kids or something. People just lose their minds, you know. It's crazy. We always say, get ahead of the game and know where your animals are going to go when you evacuate. Don't wait till the last minute. But
absolutely,
just stop bullying. Stop being brave behind your keyboard and being unkind to people. There's a lot of decisions that go into this. So, second soapbox done.
That's why we have the podcast, right?
That's why we have a podcast. So our friends don't have to listen to us talk about this unless they choose to, in which case they get on Apple or Google or Spotify, and because we're on all of those platforms and more. You can find us. Be sure
to like, subscribe, give us a thumbs up or a star, whatever it is.
That's right. Or let us know you disagree, which I heard from the last Doggone Good podcast about the dogs on the private farm. So, all right, we're up to our pet peeve and trainer tip. I have the pet peeve, and it's really about what I've been talking about, which is being so bold and bullying and having such a strong opinion. And a lot of these are coming from people who are not experts, animal experts, have little, a little bit of information about animals. So it goes back to how I started my podcast. There's the happy face and the care heart, and there's the angry face and the tear. One or the other of those is quickly very quickly applied to a story about animals without really any depth into the story or that. And this both of our topics today fall into those. So I say that's a pet peeve of mine. And I say it should be the thinking face. The hand under the chin. There's a little emoji that has a thinking face. Be thoughtful. Be curious. Want to know more. Drill down a little bit. Wherever you hear one extreme, assume there's another side to the story. And somebody on my Animal Tales podcast said that recently. If it seems really extreme or really like horrific, there's a chance there's another side, especially these animal stories. There's another side to the story. Sometimes someone just is horrible to animals and they need to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. But again, just try to check in and find out, like this story about the SPCA, why did she decide to go down this road? Did she just become a rogue SPCA lady, or did she give this a lot of thought and with many years of experience come to a conclusion that this might be part of the answer? So be thoughtful, be curious, want to know more. That's my pet peeve. Trainer tip,
Always
Tommy.
Ask why is my favorite. Yeah.
Wait till you're a parent someday.
Tip.
You won't feel as strongly about it. But why? But why? But why, Mommy?
Because I said so.
There's always that. Okay.
Yes.
Trainer tip.
So my trainer tip for this week, this past weekend, I had a very rare day off completely where I stayed home and got to just hang out with Jimmy Dean.
Oh.
I've got to work him into every episode,
Yep.
So I got to spend the day with him, and it made me kind of think about, I've mentioned in the past that we're always training our dogs, no matter what interaction we're having. They learn our habits. They learn what we're doing. They become accustomed, and we can play on that. And so I was observing as I'm having my day off and I got to hang out on the couch and not do anything. I was wanting to take a nap, and Jimmy wanted to play with the ball. He wanted me to throw the ball for him. So what I realized is that I was on the couch. That's when I will play with him on a regular basis. If I'm sitting playing on the phone or watching TV or whatever, I'll play with him while I'm sitting on the couch. But if I go to bed, if I go lay down in my bed, he knows game over, we're done. So be aware of those kinds of habits that you're pre-training. Your dog's already trained in a lot of circumstances. Yeah. So I decided it was time for me to go take a nap. And I said, oh, you know what? Instead of getting mad at Jimmy Dean for jumping on me on the couch and wanting to play with the ball where he knows that that's what we normally do, I'm just going to get up and go into the bed. And immediately he got in the bed, laid down, and went to sleep. So trainer tip is to be aware of what you've already trained your dogs to do just out of habit. And then use that, play on that, because it's all about creating a relationship and communication with your animal. We live with them all the time, so they learn a lot more than we oftentimes give them credit for.
Yeah, that's excellent. You've mentioned that before, you don't realize you're training, like when you're leaving and he knows, he goes and lays down and realizes you're leaving for the day. Those are great. And like you, through this podcast, as we're both professional animal trainers, I have really become much more thoughtful. And I've always been very thoughtful because my dad always made us think what this reaction is, what's happening with the animal, what's the animal thinking, get in their brain, which is where it's all at, not just the energy, but get in their brain. So I like you, I'm really enjoying that. I've kicked that up to another level, and I'm curious and always thinking about it. And you even saying that made me think more. I went home the last time, looked at my dogs and thought, okay, what kind of things are they doing that are just becoming part of the landscape, right?
Yeah. Just our normal day to day.
Yeah. So some good topics today and good information. as we just said, we hope people are enjoying taking it in anyhow. You know, it's somewhat entertainment and somewhat a desire to impart some information that we've learned along the way. And some of it is our expertise. So I hope you'll share this podcast. I hope you'll subscribe, hit that subscribe button, our YouTube channel or on the podcast platforms. And we hope you'll join us next time as well for a lot more doggone good information.